the Q&A session. Okay, so without any further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Arjulayana, MPD, to present her paper about university students' critical literacy in their speaking skill. Dr. Arjulayana, are you there already? Oh, yeah.
Yes, I have already here.
Okay, is it possible for you to share the screen?
I will try. No, I cannot share screen.
Okay, Aurel, can you help me with that? Okay, so Dr. Arjulayana, you have 15 minutes to present your paper. Please, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Pak Willy. Well, hopefully it is visible already. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, all the committees, and thank you for Pak Willy and committees to allow me present my research here. I am Arjulayana from University of Muhammadiyah Tangerang, located in Banten, Tangerang, actually. And then today I'm going to discuss my research about university student critical literacy in their speaking skill. Well, ladies and gentlemen, actually, in the corner of my PPT here, I provide a picture, which is the pictures is consists of someone who is pouring the water, and then after that, the picture also about someone who are eating something, and then after that they are going to upstairs. Well, actually, it is the critical literacy here. The first, we have to be able to know about the information first, maybe from the situation around us, or the first we could be able to listen something, listen to the information, any kind of information, or we could be able to find the information through reading a text or reading any kinds of text. Then after getting those informations, we could be able to try and then try to analyze the information. Then try, is it okay or not if I have to questioning this question or criticize this information, something like this and this. So it is food, and then after that we have already knows how could we be able to differentiate between the types of this food. That means we are having a good literacy in our capabilities to criticize something. Then we could be able to go to the upstairs. For the next is critical literacy here. Well, sorry, I cannot move my screen. Sorry. Well, actually, this research I have done during this HiFlex online learning, HiFlex teaching and learning, and then this background of studies comes from my teaching and learning process, because when I have observed my student, there are a lot of my student it just like lack of literacy knowledge. They don't know that actually the literacy is something which is core in their life to improve their skill. And then they need to be able to drill and practice what they have already knows. Everything they have already know, something like if they knows about information about something, they could be able to criticize and discuss it with their friends, and then questioning it with the resources of the information or something like that. So these need to be drilled by the student, to be practiced by student also. And another one is the attitude. I don't know the real situation in your university, but for my student here, I just see that they just sometimes they are demotivated to find information or to find any kinds of information to improve their skill. Or sometimes they just take use on what the teachers or lecturers explained about something. And then if our instruction is late, So they just ask something like, oh, and then how to do that? Eh, and then where I can find it? And then where I can find this information? Even actually, there are a lot of information in the social media or technology. So it is the attitude. They just need to be able to be put by their lectures, and then utilizing the information around them, it is also like, because if they could be able to utilize the information around them, I believe that they could be able to arrange their mini thesis or their article or their research easily, or at least they complete their tasks, something like academic writing, easily, because they could be able to find any kinds of problems around them. And then utilizing the digital technology also need to be improved. Through this utilizing the information, they could be able to find any kinds of information, especially in finding the article to support their skill in academic writing or in speaking skill also. Well, so it is the background of study this research, and then how important that this research to be adopted or to be implemented. And I say this is important because I have already used some relevant research, starting from, as we know that literacy comes from or proposed by New London Group at 1996. And then after that, the New London groups make it bigger, that becomes some literacy, and then critical literacy, or something I call here is traditional literacy: reading, writing, speaking, listening, and etc. Then it is Moran, and then what's we also say that literacy is not only traditional literacy, but there is a critical literacy, and the critical literacy could be involved some of some sort of literacy, something like a digital literacy, for financial literacy, and etc. And then come to the junks at 2013 until looks, they are talking still about critical literacy, and they just focus on critical literacy, how important that critical literacy to support our student in teaching our learning process here. Because without any good critical literacy, so it is impossible for them to be able to adopt any kinds of information in different medias, because as we know that critical literacy here is associated with multimedia, technology, and text, and also context. And then at the end of this research, I tried to adopt from School, Samantha, and Miller's theories at 2017 that critical literacy will be consisting of 8 indicators. Well, and then next is about research question. This research question consisting of 4 research questions. The first is utilizing the digital technology. How student at the university level could be able to utilize the digital technology to improve their critical literacy. And then did the university student understand about the critical literacy? How could they be able to understand critical literacy, and then think that in critical literacy is important for them to improve or foster their skill here. And then the next is about how did students represent their critical literacy during speaking. Well, during this research, I implement traditional teaching and learning, which is offline, and then I also doing an online teaching and learning. So it is high flex. Meanwhile, I take the data also comes from those kinds of tests. Well, and then what else to need for to foster their critical literacy? This also very important for university student level, because we have to be able to consider that our student have a good effort to foster their critical literacy in digital age. Well, ladies and gentlemen, so actually the critical literacy be based on the schools and Samantha. will be based on what here 8 categories. The first is about, did the student able to understand the meaning of the text? Did the student able to understand what the information or what the text talk about? And then after understanding about the text, they could be able to determine what is the purpose of this text, what the text talks about. And then after that, they could be able to, after understanding the text, and then what after understanding the text, that the text is talk about something blah 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 and etc. So they could be able to use that text to be able to pursue others' opinion or influence others' opinion. And then they could be able to criticize the arrangement of an information text. So literacy is not only about literacy. It's not only about digital literacy, so digital competence or any others competence. But the most important things is social competence. So if a student are able to socialize with others, so and then they could be able to have giving positive impact to their friends or to their environment. So it is also a requirement by the critical literacy here. Well, another indicators, the critical literacies are from Jangs, Luke, and Provenzo April 2015. That actually they are talking about the critical literacy here only in 5 indicators. The first is able to questioning and examination of ideas, and then analysis, and then after analysis, they are able to synthesize what information they have already got, and then interpret it both in oral or in written. But in this research, I require them to be able to synthesize and interpret in oral. And then the last is about evaluate and respond. How they could be able to evaluate the information or the text and respond it in their understanding. Well, so actually, maybe some of you ask me, so why do you choose speaking that you use to know your student critical literacy? The reason is because speaking ability is the ability to speak fluently. Because through the speaking also, it is easier for me to find out that student is really capable or really understand what the text or what the information they have already understood. And then through reading also, we could be able to know the reflective manner to show the understanding, their equality amongst other, and etc. Well, and then how speaking is practiced, I just use in virtual and offline here. And then the research method is a qualitative descriptive with a purposive sampling from 25 sample or from 5th semester student. And then I'm doing a video analysis also. The video analysis for online learning, and then when they are offline learning, I take the video also. And then interview, then the last is I'm doing the credibility and validity with a triangulation. So here I didn't fake use on my understanding to the student's taste, but also I try to compare or confirmability through my friends who are teaching and speaking also. Well, everyone, so this is the research finding. That the research findings, 89.9% students agree that critical literacy is very important for them to conduct speaking skill attractively. because without critical literacy, the speaking process and performance will not be associated with the topic or theme. And then there are three levels of student critical literacy that found here: low critical literacy, medium literacy, and then high critical literacy. And then if we are talking about the low critical literacy, means the from 8 indicators from the school and Samantha, they just provide only one or until three indicators. While for high critical literacy here means they completed all the indicators from the critical literacy based on the school and Samantha's theory. And then critical literacy need to be practiced through readings, listening, writing, and speaking performance. Well, so this is the example of student critical literacy in their speaking practice during offline learning. So I requires them to be able to speak in the class, and then so well, so maybe if you need more about this video or the example how I could be able to do this research, you could be able to contact me or ask me question after this. And then this is the example of student critical literacy in their speaking practice in online class. During the online class, I require students to be able to find something interested for them from their environment. Could be a frame or picture or something others. And then after that, they have to be able to present what the picture talk about, and they could be able to speak about that kind of ethics. Then thank you very much for the attention, everyone. So I'm very sorry if the time is over because of me. Thank you, Pak Willy. And
Okay, thank you very much for Dr. Anna for her insightful presentation. It's really interesting to know that you conducted research on critical literacy, and I guess this is something that hasn't been examined a lot, and yeah, it's really interesting.
thank you.
And for the next presenter, I would like to welcome Professor Setyarini. Are you ready, Prof?
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, Professor Setyarini is going to present her research with her colleague about constructing higher order thinking skills based literacy assessment. And Prof. Setyarini, the screen is yours, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, how much time will I get? 10 minutes?
15 minutes.
15 minutes. Okay, I think that I have to spend it well. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, this is my honor to be here to share what I have got from my research. Actually, this is applied research grant that I won from Simlip Tatmas for 3 years, and the topic that I'm going to share now is my second year research activity. Okay, so my topic entitled Constructing Higher Order Thinking Skills Based Assessment, a Breakthrough to Support Assessment Competency Minimum atau AKM program. Okay, as everyone knows that AKM here is another policy declared by the Minister of Education, okay, about the freedom to learn. Okay, actually it is intended to reach some goals, okay, when the student should have literacy skill, numeracy skill, and character education. Okay, this is good. The aims actually that the freedom will be gained by the students, so they are free to think, to give opinions, okay, have a high positive involvement in learning. Okay, so Mas Nadim proposed AKM, assessment competency minimum for each grade of education. Okay, however, However, based on my previous research, okay, relating to HOTS, okay, in West Java and East Java, okay, showed that most English teachers do not understand comprehensively the core ideas of the program. What is AKM? Okay, why AKM? And then how to construct AKM. So most teachers have no idea. They mostly say that AKM is only a jargon, a jargon. So they haven't done exactly what it is. Okay, that's why I identified that there is a very strong gap, okay, about the theories and practices. Okay, because the teachers, as usual, they like giving summative assessment in terms or in the form of tests and conducted in the final semesters of learning activity. Okay, and then the teachers usually give text-oriented assessment where all questions are directed to okay, check whether the student understand the information provided in the text. That's why I identified some problem. Again, that students could not analyze the implicit meaning. What is something behind the text? Why did the author say so? Okay, so the student just found out, okay, the information written in the text. So they never thinks that something behind the text, there are a lot of information that can be explored. Okay, that's why students and teachers, I think they are dependent on text. Without text, I think that the teachers and students, okay, do not understand how to conduct English learning, okay, interestingly, okay, because okay, they like using textbook, okay, very much. Okay, and that's why, sorry, okay, I propose two aims or two purposes of my research. Okay, report the process of model construction of higher order thinking based literacy assessment for junior secondary student. Okay, and after getting draft on the model, I try to implement, okay, in some school about the model. Okay, and the research methodology in giving trials of the model, I applied okay, research and development, where okay, in the first year I already investigated the portraits, okay, of the teachers in okay, implementing assessment, and then the second year I tried to develop heart-based literacy assessment, okay, based on the feedback that I gained in the first year. Okay, and then to test the draft model in small scale group of participants. Okay, there are only two schools that I applied. Okay, but they are okay in two provinces. So I'm sure that by getting 4 schools, okay, as the participant, okay, to try implementing the model that's sufficient, okay, and revise the model based on the inputs given by the participant and validate the model with some expert, okay, and then the next after revising the model, okay, I'm sure next year I will finalize my model, and it will be disseminated and to some okay, extended participants. Okay, the instrument to gain the information from the participant, I applied classroom observation instruments, interview with the teachers and the students, and document analysis in terms of lesson plans, okay, students' work, etc. Okay, so for the data analysis procedures, of course, okay, from recording, I transcribe the data, I made a code for the data that I need, okay, and the data reduction, and finally I analyze the data by applying some theoretical frameworks that I already got, okay, to analyze the data. Okay, this is the stages, okay, in constructing higher order thinking scale based assessments. okay, and the first one, okay, I evaluate the first year study result, as I mentioned before, that I got the portrait already, what the teachers implemented in assessing the students' literacy skills. Okay, from this, okay, I concluded that the teachers still focus or still concerned in fundamental literacy in terms of reading, okay, okay, vocabulary, memorizations, okay, sentence structure, etc. So the teachers haven't started training how to understand many things, many lesson from the text, behind the text. Okay, so from this one, okay, I try to use okay, hot based learning here, okay, hot based strategy to construct the assessments. Okay, and from this, okay, the findings and the discussion, I analyzed the learning objective of and scope from the syllabus. Okay, and then for year 7, I finally found that the syllabus offers short functional text, descriptive text, etc., etc. Year 8, recon text, descriptive text, okay, and year 9, short functional. From those syllabus that I learned, I tried to construct, okay, that the syllabus here actually contains a cultural context adjustment. That's why to be successful in teaching and assessing literacy, the teacher should apply some principle focusing on cultural context adjustment. This is the main point that I construct or develop the models. Okay, and the students here, okay, show that in analyzing, evaluating, and reconstructing literacy progression as a guidance in designing test item. Okay, and I also adapted from some theoretical framework, okay, from developmental continuum Victoria curriculum in Australia, so I can see to what extent the students can get their literacy scale. Okay, so from the study here, reading and writing as the main scale, okay, level of literacy scale, secondary level, okay, lower, S2, S3, and S4. Okay, in the categories of each level is beginning, progressing towards standard. Okay, so some key competencies that I use here, okay, basic interpersonal communication, academic language function, and student cultural background in reading and writing. So, for example, in designing assessment construct, okay, for example, this one there are some pictures, and my instruction, identifying the skill to be measured and creating an understandable editor for student for each test item. Okay, in this task, okay, we can see that the students here okay, are requested to analyze and to evaluate, because from the pictures, this if the student have no analytical skills and evaluative skill, of course they cannot, okay, understand what the instruction is. That's why from this task, I will see, okay, to what extent of HOTS the student have gained. Okay, next. From the model that I applied to my student, grade 7, 8, and 19, okay, I realized that there are some data gains, okay, for the lower score gained by the students, okay, especially in question numbers 9, 4, 7, and 10. Why? Because the text was too long and complicated according to the student based on the interview result. And the next one, the student need more time to understand comprehensively the instruction and the information in a text, and the student were difficult to provide logical reasoning and elaborate their opinion towards the available information. Although the question were supported by pictures, The vocabulary and context were not familiar with the student. Okay, so okay, this is the result that I gained. Okay, so for the high score, result, okay, according to the students' statement in the interview, they stated that the instruction was simple and clear. Of course, okay, they like the questions, okay, number 2, 6, and 3. The students were engaged in the content presented. As I mentioned, that they're talking about HOTS, okay, always relate to the context. Okay, social, cultural context is very important to be, considered in constructing the question. The pictures were relevant to the text and support the meaning of the text. That's the student statement. Okay, and then okay, for year 8, I think they are not different from year 7. The context were irrelevant to the students because okay, they thought that the pictures of the text and the story in the text are not familiar. Okay, for them, they haven't met such kind of contextual text before. This why they feel difficulties in answering the question. Documents were printed out unclearly, so the student cannot understand the meaning. Okay, this is very technical one. The student were not used to classifying genres in the book, so their responses seem inconsistent with the instruction, so they even skip the item. So they try to skip the question and they do the other questions as they like. Okay, and then for the higher score, data from the interview, the student stated that the student were engaged and free to deliver their ideas. They feel free to answer the question without feeling guilty. And this is the year 9. I think it is not much difference, but in conclusion, I think that level of the thinkings and the model that I try to give to the student, so hot is still in analyzing and evaluating, not yet in creating. So the student need to be exposed and trained by the teachers in doing this. Okay, dear participant, in the conclusion, in assessing literacy and higher order thinking skill, construct of the assessment can be arranged in the form of multiple choices, not only always using why question, and the language used should be familiar, and refers to the syllabus. And then content of the item should be combination between pictures and written text, not only in the text and not only in the pictures. And then longer text in each item would hinder the student to understand the meaning. So try to reduce the longer text, and topic should be adjusted based on the student daily life context and background. Okay, thank you very much for listening. Welcome to get your questions, comment, and suggestions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof, for the insightful presentation. HOTS, or higher order thinking skills, are important but difficult to make, yeah, as what has been expressed by many teachers. Okay, so for the audience, if you have any questions for our presenters, please feel free to leave the question or any comments in the chat box. And now I would like to welcome the third presenter, Ms. Regina Nurul Mulyani and Mr. Fazri Nur Yusuf. Are you there already? Oh, okay. So I guess we're going to move to the next presentation by Ms. Komang Dela Pratnyasari. Are you ready?
Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, good
I'm
afternoon.
here.
Okay, so
Is my voice clear?
yeah, it's clear.
Yeah, because this connection is a little bit.
Yeah, it's pretty clear. Can you share the screen?
Okay, wait a minute. Yeah.
Okay, cool. You're going to have 15 minutes to present the research, Ms. Komang, and you may start now. The screen is yours, please.
Okay, thank you for the chance. Now I'm Kamamela Patnasari would present the research entitled "The Result of Portfolio Assessment on Students' Writing Skill During Online Learning." So, without further ado, I will continue. Okay. Okay. So, okay, we move to the background. So, proficiency in using English as an international language is very important in order to be able to competent with citizens of the world. So the ability to speak English is the main skill that a person needs to master, and it can also be used to build international network. So the ability to use English will also be an added value for someone in finding a job or supporting their career. So in Indonesia itself, the policy for the application of English as a subject has been implemented since their kindergarten. And beside that, in learning English also, we know there are 4 basic skills that must to be mastered by the student, namely speaking, reading, speaking, and writing. So these 4 language skills certainly have a different focus. So in this research, so writing is the last skill that must be mastered by the student, because the writing is the most difficult skill to practice. According to Marhani and Dantes in 2014, writing ability is one of the most complex language skill because it involves cognitive and also linguistic ability. So Nunan in 2000 defined that writing is a thought process to create idea, think about how to express idea into the good writing, and organize the idea into the statement and paragraph into a good paragraph clearly. So I'm sorry. Okay. This means that the ability to write is an important ability to page by student in learning English. So in teaching writing, there are 2 approaches that can be used, namely a product-based approach and process-based approach. So there is still some debate about both, which approach is better used to be taught by the teacher. So in the process of approach, writing seen as a creative act that requires time as well as suggestion and criticism to make better result. So while in the product-based approach, students are most introduced to the linguistic features of the target language. So a process approach to writing is a reflection of the idea that writing is a process in which a writer goes through a thought process before he produces a final paper based on their thought. So furthermore, student as a writer who is just learning English need extensive guidance and direction from the teacher. They may not be able to produce a good writing, especially when English is not their native language. So in addition, the limited English vocabulary also affect the student ability in expressing their idea through writing. So therefore, the novice writer, the process approach is considered the most appropriate to use. The implication of applying the process approach is a process of assessment. So the process of assessment here inform the teacher about the student writing difficult and can be used to increase their awareness to be good in writing. So the process of assessment here can also mean an assessment of the ongoing learning process, which is carried out by the teacher by providing direct feedback to the student. So the direct feedback for the student writing is really important in encouraging and motivating students to improve their writing skills to be better than before. So, however, during COVID-19 pandemic, the interaction between student and teacher were very limited. So, furthermore, one type of assessment that can be used by the teacher during the pandemic to support the learning process, especially for their writing, for their student writing approach, is a portfolio assessment. So here, the portfolio assessment is a collection of the collection of student product that written by the student, show the abilities and learning progress of the student. So according to Mahayukti, portfolio is better indicator for assessing student writing ability compared to time limit tests. So it can be said that the portfolio provides information about the progress or development or development of student writing skills. So moreover, the use of portfolio assessment is also considered by appropriate to be used in the current online learning situation. So due to the COVID-19, learning has turned into the online learning. So learning activity are carried out by involving supporting platforms such as we know, Google Classroom, Zoom, and SPADA, which were developed by Ministry of Education and Research of the Republic of Indonesia. So in online learning, the interaction of teacher and student is not optimal because of many problems arise, such as technical and non-technical problems. So during the online learning period, portfolio assessment was deemed capable of bringing these limited interactions. So by looking at that problems, student portfolio, teachers will able to see the student learning progress and provide a form of evaluation primarily on writing skills. So thus looking at the explanation above, the current study was intended to explore the effect of using the portfolio assessment on student writing skill during online learning. So the purpose of this study is the current study focused at identifying the result of portfolio assessment on student writing skill during the learning. So here I developed the hypothesis. So there is no significant effect of portfolio assessment effect on student writing skill, and there is a significant effect of portfolio assessment on student writing skill. So we move to the research method. So here the research design is experiment with the pre-test and post-test design. And the research setting here, I collect in one of junior high school in Singaraja, Bali. And the sample of this research, I used 32 students of 7th grade junior high school. And research variable in this research is dependent variable, which is student writing skill. Besides that, the independent variable is portfolio assessment. So next is for the procedure of data collection. The first one, observation. Second, and determine population. The third is select the samples, prepare the research instrument, and consult the validate the research instrument, conduct pre-test, treatment, post-test, and interview. So analyze the result and pre-test result of pretest and posttest. And the last one, summarize the result. So for the research instrument here, I use, of course, pretest and posttest, lesson plan, writing rubric, and test type. The test type here, I use descriptive text. So for the data analysis, here I analyze mean and standard deviation. Meanwhile, in inferential, I analyze homogeneity, normality, and t-test. And we move to the finding. So from the descriptive analysis here, so from the result, the student pretest and result showed that a number of 73.90 with a standard deviation of 7.751. Meanwhile, in the post-test, the student writing ability score was 76.75 with a standard deviation of 77.509. So from the result of the comparison here, so it can be said that after being taught by a portfolio assessment, student writing abilities were higher than before using a portfolio assessment. To be unable to see significant of difference in pretest and post-test, so a t-test needed to be analyzed. So next, okay. The normality score for pretest and post-test is higher than 0.05, which indicate that the data are normally distributed. The result of a homogeneity test also showed that a value which is higher than 0.50, as it also indicate homogeneous data. Since this test achieved the t-test, so we can say that the significant difference can be conducted. So, okay. From the result of the t-test, as known as on the table, it showed that 0.001, which lower than 0.05, a value lower than 0.05 demonstrate that there is a significant mean difference between pretest and post-test. So therefore, the hypothesis of the study is accepted. So from the exercise, test was also carried out to identify the criteria of mean difference. So the result of exercise test showed that 0.373, which belong to medium category. So we move to the discussion here. Okay. Based on the theoretical review, here the Solistio 2020 clarified that the implementation of the portfolio assessment can help the student to improve their writing skills and also identify the weakness in writing through the feedback provided by the teacher. Here, the feedback that given by the teacher is of course very important for students in writing progress. So feedback here as the student point to develop their writing. And furthermore, Muin and Hadifa have found on identifying students' perception of the implementation of portfolio assessment. So here the student feel very helpful from the input or suggestion given by the teacher in very portfolio that they work. on, and in addition, they feel increasingly confident that they can do better in writing. Furthermore, Martinez stated that the process of oriented learning approach helps students to produce better writing. So during the process of writing stage, students get good advice from the teacher or themselves by using portfolio assessment, also support an authentic learning process. And the last, from the Marhaini and Dantes, at that portfolio assessment is suitable in competence-based education because this portfolio assessment is integrated in the learning process and can include several other type of assessment. So here, the English learning process should emphasize that the use of portfolio assessment rather than conventional assessments such as multiple choice and essay. So for the conclusion here, for the conclusion here, so this study concludes that the hypothesis of this study is portfolio assessment significantly affected the student writing skills during the online learning in pandemic. So portfolio assessment in learning to write is an assessment that is integrated with learning, where the student can see what they have achieved, how their learning progress, and what advantages that they have during the process of learning, especially in writing. So for a certain period of time until the writing is ready to be displayed and is the best result. So that's all from my research. Thank you for listening and good afternoon.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Komang Bila, for the presentation about a very interesting topic here, portfolio assessment on students' writing skill. Okay, the result of portfolio assessment. Yeah, it's a really student-centered approach to teaching. Okay, so the next presenter, the last but not the least, I would like to welcome Mr. Dani Himawan. Are you there? Mr. Dani Himawan?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can you share the screen?
Okay, but I apologize in advance for not using an ICOLTEC background because an error occurred in my Zoom setting section.
It's okay. Okay. Is it possible for you to share the screen?
Okay, sir.
Okay, so you're going to have 15 minutes for the presentation and yeah, okay, it's there already. Wait.
Have you seen my PowerPoint?
Not yet, it's still black. Can you wait? Can you stop sharing and then share it again? Okay, once more. I guess you may want to try turning off the camera so that the connection can be, yeah, it's there already. Okay, Mr. Dani Himawan, you have 15 minutes to present your research. The screen is yours.
Yes. Thank you, Sir Willie.
Okay, Mr. Dani. You may want to turn off the camera.
Have you seen my PowerPoint, sir?
Yeah, but it seems that your connection is really low. So I guess you'd better turn off the camera while sharing the screen so that it's not lagging.
Okay. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present my paper from my thesis 1 month ago. In this occasion, I will present the result of my thesis with the title "A Survey of EFL Student Perception of Assessment Quality." So, I will explain about the table of contents that contains for chapter 1 is background of study, identification of the problem, research gap, research question and aims. So next, chapter 2, literature review and theoretical framework. Chapter 3, methodology, research design, population and sample, and data collecting technique. Chapter 4, research design and discussion. Chapter 5, conclusion and recommendation. And last is reference. So in this chapter 1, I will explain about background of study of my thesis. The quality of assessment include various things such as test, assignment to the assessment process itself. If the quality of assessment is low, it will become a serious problem at all levels of education, so that it is related to student development. Second is identification of the problem. To identify existing problems found by identifying what factors in student perception of the quality of the assessment they get in learning, such as effect of assessment on learning, fairness, condition, authenticity, credibility, and interpretation of their test scores. 3. Research gap. Lecturer claims that they have practiced well, but there is no clear evidence, for example, whether teachers have given good quality for feedback or not to students. This is very important for the improvement of student learning and also the achievement of the assessment standard provided by the institution. So next, for research question, what are the factors of EFL undergraduate student perception on the assessment quality? And aims to identify what factors influence student perception of the quality of the assessment carried out. Chapter 2 explain about assessment learning of EFL context according from Bradford et al. 2002. Assessment for learning is the process of seeking and interpreting evidence for use by learners and their teachers to decide where the learners are in their learning, where they need to go, and how best to get there. Chapter 2 contains about literature review and theoretical framework. This is 3 of my literature review and theoretical framework. A survey of with title "A Survey of EFL Student Perception of Assessment Quality to Their Learning Approach and Learning." The first is assessment learning of EFL context. According from Bradford et al. 2002, assessment for learning is the process of seeking and interpreting evidence for use by learners and their teachers to decide where the learners are in their learning, where they need to go, and how best to get there. Second, I use survey research design, our procedure in quantitative research in which investigator administer a survey to sample or to entire population of people to describe the attitudes, opinion, behavior, or characteristic of the population according from Criswell 2012. So questionnaire student, I adapted questionnaire from Gerritsen van Leeuwenkamp 2018, questionnaire student perception of assessment quality questionnaire or SPAWQ. The SPAWQ with 37 items and 7-point Likert scale, the reliability of the scale range between 0.75 and 0.89. Next is chapter 3, explain methodology, research design, population and sample and data collecting technique. Research design are using quantitative research, especially survey study, and the population is undergraduate student of English language education, academic year 2019, who take the teaching, reading, writing on private university in Yogyakarta. Instrument, student perception of assessment quality questionnaire or SPAWQ, the SPAWQ with 37 items and 7-point Likert scale from adapted from Gretchen van Leeuwenkamp 2018. Data collecting techniques review by the questionnaire. The first is review by the questionnaire, student perception of assessment quality. And then second, adapted the student perception of assessment quality questionnaire as an instrument and translate into Bahasa Indonesia. Third, check the result of translate questionnaire items. Fourth, check validity of the questionnaire student perception of assessment quality or SPAWQ into Indonesian version. 5, check reliability of the questionnaire student perception of assessment quality questionnaire into Indonesia version. 5, distributed 31 items of questionnaire to undergraduate students who take teaching, reading, writing course in English education 2019. So last, use Microsoft Excel and SPSS statistic version 23 to analyze the data from questionnaire into statistical package result. This is validity and reliability result of that I got after processing the data that I did validity show 100% result and reliability with Cronbach's alpha 0.952 of the 37 questionnaire items. Chapter 4, research finding. Chapter 4 explain about research finding. The questionnaire that I have distributed have been filled out by 85.7 female and for 14.3 male with age range of 20 years old, 83.7%, and 18 to 20 years old with 16.3%. In the result from the data that I have processed, it's one from that ESL is the factor with the highest value with mean 6.1, then followed by COA with mean 5.89, third ITS with a mean 5.87, and fourth CA and AOA with mean 5.83, and the last is FA with mean 5.78. The discussion is first is result of assessment on learning or ESL. The most affecting factors were found in item ESL. When I get feedback on test, it shows clearly what I have not yet mastered with mean 6.11 and standard deviation 0.83. It explained that most students experience when they feel that there is something they don't understand when they get feedback from the lecturer. Assessment and learning are directly related. Assessment is defined as a formal classroom process where students get feedback and achieve their goals. According from Bert et al. 2017, 17. Second, credibility of assessment or COA, the most effective factor were found in item 37. I trust testing and assessment in my educational program to be of good quality with MEN 5.89 and standard deviation 1.01. It explained that student confident in the quality of the test and assessment they do is very good, such as how they are assessed to situation where the assessment is carried out. According to Corey 2007, also added that the credibility of an assessment is not only from quality of the test, but also comes from the person who give the assessment to student must really have a good credibility in providing an assessment. Third, the result for interpretation of test score or ITS, the most affecting factor were found in item ITS 24. My score on test reflect the extent to which I have mastered the subject with MEN 5.87 and standard deviation 1.07. It explained that students realize that the result they get when carry out assessment and tests are in accordance with the material they understand. It must be clarified that the interpretation of test score is that there is no intention to underestimate student in standard measure that has been determined to make a belief between true or false. The goal is to provide an understanding of the things involved in a test to all who take the test. According from Gormon and Primavera 1997. For the result for authenticity of assessment or AOA, the most effective factor were found in item AOA 32. I need the competence I require to pass my test in other professional situation as well, with MEN 5.84 and standard deviation 0.94. It explained that students realized that they need a professional competence to be able to support their exam condition. In order to overcome this factor, lecturers and all people related to this must be able to provide the best possible service so that students can improve their competence in facing exam and assessment. According from Bergman et al. 2006. 5. The result for condition of assessment or CA, the most affecting factor were found in CA 20. The team of teacher in my educational program is accomplished in testing and assessment with 5.84 and standard deviation 1.0. Explain that students understand very well which lecturer will assess and test them. They also know their background, so they really trust the person who will judge them. Meanwhile, lecturers are also required to be professional because it relates to several things in decision making, such as how they work, decision making, and method used in assessment. Therefore, their competence and professionalism in assessing students must be fair. According from Hargreaves 2000. And the last is the result for fairness of assessment or FA. The most affecting factor were found in items FA 14. Testing and assessment are fair with mean 5.78 and standard deviation 1.07. It explained that students feel when they are tested and judged fairly with others students without involving some things that cause cheating for them. Assess of fairness from students will appear more if they are given an opportunity to provide a review of testing and learning direction compared to modifying the score that have been obtained. According from Rada book 1996. chapter 5 it's explained about conclusion based on the data analysis. Research found that effect of assessment on learning or ESL as the most affecting factor or highest score of EFL undergraduate student perception on the assessment quality with mean 6.1, which statement when I get feedback on test, it shows clearly what I have not yet mastered. Second, followed by credibility of assessment or COA with mean 5.89, which statement I trust testing and assessment in my educational program to be a good quality. Third, interpretation of test score or IDS with mean 5.87, which statement my scores on tests reflect the extent to which I have mastered the subject. Fourth, condition of assessment or CA and authenticity of assessment or AOA with the similar mean 5.83, which statement the team of teacher in my educational program is accomplished in testing and assessment, and I need competence I require to pass my test in other professional situations as well. Last, for the lowest score is finance or assessment or FA with mean 5.78, with statement testing and assessment are fair. In conclusion, from the data analysis, if undergraduate students have a positive perception of the quality of assessment that given to them. So I have a recommendation after I did for further research. First is to present study offer some recommendation for the study. Firstly, there is still a gap, the result of EFL undergraduate student perception on the assessment quality factor, especially thus the research recommends conduct this more research. Secondly, this current study only focus on factor of EFL undergraduate student perception on the assessment quality. Researcher suggest that more study conduct different line of the correlational study, such as relationship between EFL undergraduate student perception on the assessment quality to their learning approach, learning outcomes, and achievement. Thirdly, the future researcher can expand the research on the sample more undergraduate student in various major in university. I think that's all from me. Thank you for your attention and good afternoon.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Dani Himawan, for the presentation about students' perception of for learning quality. Okay, for all the audience and all the presenters, if you have any questions for all papers that have been presented, please feel free to raise your hand or leave the question in the chat box, please. Any questions or comments? Today, at least we have two big themes. The first is about assessment and literacy. It can be critical literacy or the related term, higher order thinking skills. Any questions or comments? Anyone? Well, okay. If there is no questions or feedback from the audience, let me summarize and highlight the presentations today. Yeah, we have two themes today in this parallel session. The first is literacy with two interesting topics here. The one is critical literacy, and the other is higher order thinking skills. And these two research papers, I guess, are the indicators that I guess there is a growing interest in the field of literacy. So if you need to conduct any studies on either critical literacy, or higher order thinking skills, you may want to read the research papers written by Dr. Arjulayana and Professor Stiarini and her colleagues. And the second topic is about assessment. The first is portfolio assessment in writing in online writing class, and the second is students' perception on assessment for learning. These two are also interesting because portfolio assessment as well as assessment for learning focuses more on the participation of the students in learning, and both of them focuses on the process instead of the product. So the emphasis is on how the students can reflect on their experiences in learning. And if you're interested in conducting any research on these two topics, yeah, you may want to read the papers later that will later be published somewhere, and the publication stuff will be announced by the committee later at the end of the conference. I'm not really sure about it, but yeah, you may want to keep checking your email for any further information. And thank you very much for all the presenters and all the audience for attending this wonderful parallel session. Before we end this session, there will be some announcement from the committee, and I will give the screen to Aurel. Please, Aurel.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Willie. So I think our time has over. Thank you to our presenters for the excellent presentations and the discussion. We hope that the knowledge presented in today's conference can be useful for all of us in many ways. I encourage all the participants to continue our sharing session by joining the second day of the ICOLTEC 2022, which will be held tomorrow on Thursday at 9 a.m. Please be sure to attend the next agenda of the conference tomorrow, because there are still many good speakers who will share their knowledge with all of us, and also an announcement of the paper publications, as well as our closing event of the ICOLTEC 2022. Kindly reminder for all participants, please don't forget to fill the attendance form that has been shared in the chat box. Now, allow me to close this parallel session with a big thank you to all parties who have worked well together today. But before that, let's take a picture together with all the presenters here. Please be ready with your beautiful smile. Everyone, please turn on your camera. Okay. Okay, we're still waiting. Okay. I'll count to 3. 1, 2, 3. And then for the next slide, 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the speakers and the participants. It is an honor to be able to get this event to completion, and let us meet in the next session. Please stay healthy and safe. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you all the committee, and thank you, Prof. Prof. Rini. Nice to meet you here.